You can easily read CSV files as well. So if you have Excel or any other spreadsheet programs, you can save your file as a CSV file. So you might have to scroll a bit and then you can find it .csv extension. So that will save the file as a comma separated value file. So you'll have the same content but separated by comma. And to read it, you can simply use the pandas module, and I'll import it as PD. They have a function called read CSV, specify your file name, and of course it outputs data frames. So you'll say df is, that's autocomplete. So now if you run it, you'll see we've got the data frame containing the Excel or the CSV values. We can get a single row, so that will get the name column, name column. If you print it, you see it, every value of that column, and to get the first value, simply use 0, which is the first element. So that will get the first element of the column name, which is Bob. Now to get the second one, just change the column name. So the first one is the column name, and you'll see now we get 1000 because that's the first element of the second column. So this is how you can read CSV files or comma separated value files. You can write data to a CSV file, which is a comma separated value file. And this kind of file can be read in Excel or other spreadsheet programs. So to do that, first we'll import the CSV module. Then open a file as you'd usually would. So with open example.csv, we'll create it as your file object. Then we need several names. So let's say fields is equal to name and salary. So that will define the fields. Then create a writer object, dictionary writer, our file, and specify the field names. Then go on to write the header. And finally, I want to write a row. And the row is a dictionary input, so you'll have the salary and the name. And salary writes whatever salary. And of course you can write a bunch of rows. And different salaries, whatever. Run it. And you'll see the new file has been created. So we've got example CSV. If you'd open it with a text editor, you'll see it's comma separated values, comma here, and then the values. Now this kind of file can be opened with any spreadsheet program, so Excel or Google Docs or whatever kind of spreadsheet program. And you'll see the actual data pop up. So it's kind of an alternative to the Excel format. It's just values, any kind of value separated by a comma. And this is how you can create one. Now the only challenge, of course, is if you have values which contain actual commas. But for most of the types of data, this will work just fine. Let's load an Excel file into Python. So here you'll see Google Sheets, but we're actually going to download this Microsoft Excel, so .xlsx. So this is the format that will use XLSX. So we'll load that into Python. And so make project directory and copy your Excel file into that directory. So now we have the project file in the directory, and we'll need a module named pandas. Just install that module with the pip package manager, and this module can load Excel files, so that's why we need to install it. And it takes a second or so to finish installing. And you'll also need XLRD. This is a module that can load the Excel file. And now we can actually make this program. So I'll just name it example.py, import pandas, and I'll just name it PD to write easier. Then there's a single line that can load the file, and make sure you have the right file name. So just pd.excel file, and PD because we named it as PD. And it's a capital character. And then you can, for example, show the sheet names. Now if you save it, run it, let's see, we've got the sheet name, so there's only one sheet. And let me just load it in Visual Studio Code because it's easier to work with. Okay, so this is our program, 3 lines of code. Now, you can get other information. So for example, the head, if you parse it as a data frame, so you can add these lines of code and output this, and you'll see the head. So you'll see the head and the actual data from the sheet. So if we go back to the sheet, you'll see we have the same data here as our program outputs. You can read cells from Excel files directly. So in this case, I'm using another program to read an XLSX file. But the principle remains the same. So we have several rows here with cell data. Then in Python, we use the pandas module to open the Excel file. So in here, specify the file name for your Excel file. So .xlsx is your Excel file. Then specify the sheet name, in this case sheet 1, and that should match your actual sheet name. So we have sheet 1 here. And then you can access an Excel file, so an actual cell, using brackets in which you specify the row. So we have row 1, 2, 3. So let's pick row 3. And then specify the number. So this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So if we take 0, we would have the first cell. So if you now run it, you'll see we've got the first value, 21. And if you take 1, you'd have the second value, so 98. So you specify the row or the column, and then the index. And if you want, you can also specify to convert it into a variable. So let's say we call it x, and then print x. So in that way you can convert Excel files, Excel values into Python variables. So of course you could have something completely different. So let's say some some values of x depending on the time. And we could specify x and then the same index. So 0 would be the first element. And there you go, we've got the first value. So that's how you can convert Excel files, Excel variables into Python. And always check the sheet name, because if the sheet name doesn't match, it will throw an error. Let's create an Excel file. So let's write a file from Python. First thing to write an Excel file is to import several modules. So we'll import these modules, which is the pandas module to manipulate Excel and some others. Then we need a so-called data frame. So you can define a data frame using the pandas module. And the data frame is just a structure that will let you define the content. So let's say the first row, and then some numbers here. Then the second row, and we'll want to store that into a data frame object. So it will output a data frame object. Then you'll want to create a new file. So writer Excel file and your file name .xlsx. Then you want to write the data frame to Excel. So we can do that with this line. Then specify the writer object, the Excel object, the sheet. That's it. And finally save it. So now if you run this code, you'll see we don't have an object yet. Because we're in the wrong directory. And so you'll see the file here. And you can then open it with Excel or another Office program. So let's say we open it with numeric program. And open the file. You'll see we have A and B here. So we created an Excel file and then open it in this program. Previously, we have created and loaded an Excel file using Python. And we can actually use this data to plot something to the screen. And so let's create a line chart based on the income level. Call it line.py. Just let me load the editor. So we got our text editor. We're going to use the pandas library, which is the data analysis module. We'll load the data using read Excel. First sheet, and we'll load in the page list into a list. So I have a list containing pages, and we want the page column or the entire row actually, and type to list. So then I have the entire data as a list. So if we run it, you see that we have the data. Then we can combine that with matplotlib to actually visualize this data. So just import the module and we'll say plot this data, list, and show plot. And let's also give it a title. So pages of people in Excel file. So if we run this, we have a visualization of this data row right in Python. Of course, we can make different visualizations. So one way to actually visualize ages would be in a histogram, and because we have certain ages right here, so we might want to know what is the frequency of people's having ages between 30 to 40, and what's the frequency of people 40 to 50, and so on. So instead of a line chart, which is kind of strange in the terms of age, we might want a histogram. So change it into a hist, which will create our histogram. And the Y label will be frequency, and the X label will be the age. And of course, we need to specify the number of bins. So let's say we have 5 bins. Now, if we run this, we have a different visualization of our data set here. So we got different ages and frequencies in which they occur. So we'll see that there's fewer people who are older than 50 than younger people. And of course, you can change the number of bins if you want. So now we'd have more bins, or one more actually. Slightly better idea of the distribution of ages in this row. And I'd have to say these are quite few ages, so there's actually few data, but still you get the idea of how to visualize this row of ages. We can do, of course, the same thing for income. And so instead of age list, we'd have an income list, and take the income table. So we see the frequency of the incomes. So this is the list of incomes. If we run it, we should use an age list, income list. And now you'll see that it's a very strangely distributed, the income. So we got people with a high income, with a lower income, and somewhere in between, but most people are earning this lower income. And so that's a simple way to visualize data based in an Excel file using Python. So we load our data and visualize it with matplotlib. In this tutorial, you'll learn how to get Excel data inside Python. And so we got our little Excel file here, persons.xlsx. So you can use Microsoft Excel or LibreOffice or OpenOffice, whatever editor you're using. But save it as a .xlsx file. So we got person.xlsx with some person data, so certain genders, age, incomes, and weights. And we can load this data in Python. So I create a program named app.py, and we'll import that data by using a module named pandas. So it's a data analysis library or module. Make sure you have it installed. And you can install it using apt-get or pip, or depending on your platform, there's different ways to install this module, the pandas module. And this module will allow you to read Excel files. So we can say read Excel, and we named it person.xlsx. And we want to use the first sheet, so sheet 1. So now the Excel file is read, and we want to actually see some data. So let's simply print everything, see if that works. So now we see the whole Excel file in Python style. So just to compare, this is in Excel, LibreOffice, and this is in Python. And might want to select a certain row. So let's select H in there. Can use the list or array style indexation. So just type H like this, run it once more, and we get all the H values. In addition, we still have those identity numbers. I think if we can type 1 there, we get the first element apparently. So 0 would be the top element. So we can get individual elements as well. And obviously, if we select income, we get the other row. So we get all of these numbers. And we type weight, we get the other numbers. And so, but this is actually not a list yet, and I generally prefer using lists. So let's say we want to have the weights. You can say weights.values.toList. And if we then print weights, we have all of these values in a nice list, which we're used to working with. So remember that we just use this row, and we have some other ones. So in case you want all of them, just creating lists for all of these. So we had income, age, and weights. Age and weight, and now all of them are in lists. So we got age there, and we got weight, and income was the first one. So now we have 3 lists based on this Excel data, and we'll print those, output those to the screen. And we'll say it gives an error because we defined incomes and choose income. So obviously it should be the same. Now, if we run it, all of them work except weight. So why doesn't it know weight? Same mistake, should be weights. So we define it as weights. So there we go. We got 3 lists based on this data. And of course, you can also create a list for gender. So in the same style, we can get this data and print it to the screen. So go get this row. So it's the same rows in lists. Now we got all of the data in Python based on the Excel file. Hope you enjoyed and keep watching.